Welcome to the Halligans and Half Wheel Podcast, presented by Box 1971, where we're changing the culture of the fire service one fireman at a time.
Well, thank you, Matt Pirino, for that great introduction. This is the Halligans and Half Wheels Podcast, brought to you by Box 1971, where we're changing the culture of the fire service one fireman at a time. Joined by my buddy here in the Fueled by Milwaukee Studios, Milwaukee, nothing but heavy duty. Big John, happy May, buddy. How are you?
Happy May, son.
I hear you.
Got flowers, fucking birds and robins and
Grass is green.
heat.
Can golf. Boy, I'm going to tell you what. We're going to do something different this month. We have been trying for the better part of 2+ years to get our guest for this month in the seat. Our guest is Phil Heitman. Phil is a retired 747 airline captain for Retired Air. And we're going to talk about his life. And I'm going to tell you what, if you thought ogres had layers, Phil's got layers.
Just like an onion.
Peel it back, I'll make you cry. Phil, thanks for joining us. How are you, buddy?
Life is good.
Life is good.
I choose life.
I choose life as well. It is, there's worse places to be. And, man, it's good to see you. You look well. So that's good. And your mustache is, I'm going to dare say, second best in the room. Yeah, I'm going to say second best. You need to work on yours, Big John.
I'll try.
I'm not a
What is the
critic of
secret?
fashion or
We aren't either. We just kind of show up and live life. So give folks a quick rundown about Phil. Grew up in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Accomplished pilot, author, a karaoke hound if I ever saw one. He's probably sang in more countries than most people could ever visit on a passport and got paid to do it. This man has led a life, and I am excited to see where this journey takes us. So we're just going to jump in here, Phil. Where you grew up in Winston-Salem. Did you grow up near the Big Shell gas station? Did you grow up anywhere near that where the Big Shell is?
yes, it was not far from my house. South Side. As we've talked before, my first job was at Kermit's Hot Dog House, making $1.10 an hour plus tips.
Nice.
And of course, Kermit's is right down the street from Bum and Gray.
Yeah. You love racing.
Oh,
We
yeah.
still got to go. You owe me a date.
I've contacted you a couple of times and
know.
said, "Hey, let's get the hot rod and go."
Hot rods.
But yeah, my first racing experience was at Bum and Gray School of Medicine, or Bum and Gray Stadium.
Mayhem. That place is mayhem.
Well, it was long before it was called the Madhouse, but
Yeah.
you know, the rivalries have been there for a long time.
There's good racing there. Really good racing.
Yeah, quarter-mile flat tracks, I think, is the only one left.
Yeah. It's hard to beat that kind of racing.
Yeah, and then my high school, they played their home games in the middle of Bum and Gray.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right. Did you play any sports growing up?
Early on in elementary school, I played basketball and ran track.
Okay.
And then tried football one year and realized that wasn't my sport.
You'd rather watch it than play it?
Well, I was like, you know, the 7th string halfback, and when the coach wanted to give the star halfback a break, he'd pull him out and put me in.
Sure.
And then, you know, the quarterback in his wisdom would call same play. Well, this time they're waiting on it. So, you know, the hole would open up and I'd be looking at linebackers, you know. And I never really was able to look good, you know.
Hard to look good on the bottom of a
But,
pile.
you know, the first string guy got his break and they, you know, wheeled me off the field. But
No worse for wear, right?
eventually I stopped playing basketball as well and just ran track in high school.
All right. So you graduate high school. What do you do after high school?
Well, I had just lost my mom in 6 months before, and I had some money and wanted to see the world, so I went on a scholastic trip to Europe, and in fact, that was the first time I ever flew on a 747. It was out of JFK to London, and went around Europe with this scholastic group.
Okay.
And it was a great trip, but then came back and was downtown Winston-Salem one day and saw this recruiting sign that said, "Join the Navy and see the world." So I did. But I don't like
I
to
did
talk
it.
about my service too much, but I got a honorable discharge and I was proud to serve.
Okay. That's all that matters. You did what most people wouldn't, right? So,
I guess it was the tail end of Vietnam, and we were getting out of Vietnam, and the military was downsizing. It was all right. Never was on a ship. Always had land duty.
that's a blessing.
That's crazy.
I couldn't imagine being on a ship. Those things are. I've toured a couple of them just for fun, like being a tourist. And I'm going to tell you what, the tight quarters. And they say you can't take showers, and you got to do this. Like you're allotted a certain amount of time. Like you don't get like how you and I go in the shower. We're like, oh man, this hot water feels good.
Not together.
Not together.
For those who are listening, not together.
Not that you're willing to talk about.
Some things are better left unseen.
Well, what was your favorite part of Europe? I mean, the
Oh.
first time you've left North Carolina.
On that trip.
Yeah.
Wow. I'd have to say, Bruges, Belgium.
Okay, Belgium. Okay.
Yeah. There's some fantastic museums in Bruges. If you ever saw the movie The Monuments Men,
Yeah, love that movie.
yeah, that was all about saving all those statues and works of art, and many of them ended up back in Bruges. And I didn't know it at the time, but once I saw the movie, it brought back all the memories.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, Bruges is just a beautiful city, and the food, oh my gosh, fantastic.
We love good food, don't we?
Yes, we do.
So you is that where you got? How did you go from the Navy to flying? Is there a step there? Or?
No, it's totally disjointed.
Okay.
After service, I decided I wanted to go back to school.
Okay.
And so I went to junior college, and then from junior college went to university and got my degree in marine biology. And that was always, I guess, a childhood thing, because we used to go to the coast a lot, and so and do a lot of fishing, and so I guess marine biology was kind of a childhood goal.
Okay.
And so I achieved that, but unfortunately I was unable to get a job in the marine biology field. So
Where'd you go to school out here in North Carolina?
UNC Wilmington, yeah.
Okay. Not a bad place to go to school for a guy that wants to be near the ocean.
Yeah, we had a lot of good times down there. I was a member of a couple of fraternities.
Okay.
I tap a keg.
Yes, sir.
I drink a beer.
Yeah.
Uncap a fifth.
Yeah.
And decapitate. Decapitate was a shrimp eating fraternity, where we catch our live shrimp and come back and pop their heads off. So we called ourselves Decapitate. And it was a brother fraternity with I tap a keg.
They intermingled
I
a
can't
lot.
with you. That's awesome. So you graduate, you can't find work in the field that you're educated in, right? So you're like, what am I going to do? Do you go back home?
I did. I went back home and got a job at Bowman Gray School of Medicine and as a laboratory technician, and worked my way up to laboratory manager, and then met my wife-to-be, my first wife,
Okay.
and she was getting her PhD in microbiology. So she graduated and we got married and moved to the Triangle area down to Durham to allow her to pursue her career.
Sure.
And what I found was very frustrating that I couldn't find a good job down in the RTP area, Research Triangle Park. And found out the reason was highest concentration of PhDs in the world, but it's also the highest concentration of out-of-work PhDs in the world. So everyone that they knew they could hire was overqualified. And here I was. I only had, just a bachelor's.
Right.
So I ended up selling the house that I had been buying up in Yadkinville in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And with that money, I started taking flying lessons.
Like at a local municipal airport?
No, I drove to Winston-Salem. I wanted to learn to fly at Smith Reynolds Airport, where I grew up, and with Piedmont Airlines. In fact, I was one of the last people to get my private pilot before U.S. Air took over Piedmont.
I got to be honest with you, though. I know you worked at Kermit's and you got Allegiance, but I'm a Pulliams guy.
I know you are. And I told you that, we'd get in the hot rod one day and, we'd go to Pulliams. But I'm going to stop by and say hello to Buster, at Kermit's, because we're still friends.
There's nothing wrong with that. I like that. I like that area. There's good people over there. Everything is just, the food is amazing. Again, good food, good people, hard to beat.
Pulliams has good hot dogs. There's no question.
Yeah, their barbecue slack. But their hot dogs are pretty good. Kermit's has good hot dogs too. I have nothing bad to say. Just where that whole NASCAR Allegiance type deal, with Mr. France and how he got Pulliams in, and that was the first true taste of a hot dog from North Carolina that I'd had was Pulliams. So that's kind of my.
Well, Kermit's though has the history of racing also, because being right down the street from Bowman Gray. I remember one night I was working the curb there at Kermit's, and car pulling a race car on a trailer, and Kermit's is right in a curve, and the car went one way and the trailer went straight, came right in and smashed into a car right in the back of a car there at Kermit's. It just
right there.
Yep. So so Kermit's has the provenance of being involved with racing also, and Kermit's actually sponsored a car many years back. Ernie Shaw. I'm sure you don't know that name, but they were associated for a while, and also Tim Brewer, who eventually became famous in NASCAR.
Yeah.
But I was hanging out with Tim Brewer for a while.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
He wouldn't remember me, but I remember him.
That's all right. That's still pretty cool though.
But he's from that area.
Right. So you you decided you wanted to go flying. Is that just something that you had thought about, or like did you grow up with thoughts of flying or anything like that?
Yeah, well, as a kid, again, I think every kid looks up in the sky when an airplane flies over.
Yeah.
Kids out in the outfield of a baseball field, they'll let the ball drop.
I can see that kid out there just turning circles right now.
Yeah, airplane goes over and, he's not thinking about the ball. He's looking up into the airplane. So, but for me, it was the time of the early space race.
Okay.
And the Mercury 7, first astronauts for the U.S. I was 6 years old and looking at Buck Rogers shows, and and as a kid you fantasize a lot, stuff like that. And the Mercury 7, they weren't just astronauts, they were spacemen, and that was exotic at the time. And so I always wanted to be an astronaut. And of course, aviation is, right along that line.
Right.
So I always wanted to fly as well as, again, I always wanted to learn about marine biology. So I've been fortunate that I was able to do both.
That's freaking cool, man. That's freaking cool. Like, most people talk about wanting to live their dreams and they never see things come to fruition, right? You've got to live a pretty vast majority of what you set out in life that you wanted to do. I mean, flying at 30,000 feet, although it's not outer space, is still freaking cool, you know? At least to me it is. I mean, from somebody that just flies in the back of the plane, you know?
Yeah.
Doesn't have no business up front.
Well, I can say the Earth is still flat. 90% of the water on Earth is non-carbonated, so it is flat.
This guy.
That's a terrible joke.
This guy. You almost had me going.
I was thinking, like, does he know something we don't know?
Yeah, that's
Are
what I
we
was
spilling the
thinking, like,
beans here?
oh,
No,
hell.
he didn't. Come on, carbonated water. What's wrong with you? Oh, you had us going. Both of us. Both of our gears were turning.
I'll remember that one.
So what was your first flight solo like? I mean, you went from basically Joe Blow on the street to being a pilot.
Well, I mean, anyone can do that. You just go out to your local airport and take your first flight lesson, but...
Is it that easy? You
Yeah.
got to pay for it.
Of course. But you asked about solo. My first solo was at Smith Reynolds Airport, and it was... I mean, your flight instructor is not going to let you go until he thinks you're ready.
Sure.
And so I guess he thought I was ready, but I'm sure he was, biting his nails the whole time. 'Cause, after I started flying the 747, I got back in touch with him, and I gave him a copy of my book that I wrote, the flight training book.
Yeah.
And I asked him, I said, Doug, did you ever think I'd make it? He said, nah, I didn't think you would.
Really?
Yeah.
Boy, you proved him wrong.
Well, it was not proving anything to anybody other than myself. It was my goal.
Right.
I wasn't trying to prove anybody else wrong. But
So were you nervous?
But he was. I mean, he said it in a joking way.
Sure.
And it was. We both laughed.
He wasn't being malicious.
No. He's a really good guy.
So how nervous were you taking off on that flight?
What, on the first solo?
Yeah.
Well, I can't really say I was nervous, because when you're in control of a machine like that, you focus on your tasks.
Okay.
It's what you're supposed to do anyway. Your checklists and your tasks, and making sure everything is set right, and you're talking to the tower, and so you really don't have time to be nervous per se, especially when once you take off. I mean, that's a commitment. Once you take off by yourself, takeoffs are optional, landings are not. So once you take off, you got to come around and land. So
Like a flying brick.
yeah, you don't. Well, hopefully not quite that dramatic, but
Fair enough.
you just focus on your tasks. That's it. You focus on hitting your marks, so to speak. Just like in racing, you want to hit your marks.
Right.
You're not nervous from going so fast. You're just focusing on controlling the machine.
Fair point. It's a fair point. Would have never looked at it like that. I don't think about checklists though.
No, I don't think about a checklist. What I am curious about is, and we're probably getting off topic, but how the hell does turbulence work? That's I'm just curious.
The sun,
How so?
uneven heating of the earth.
Due to the contour of the Earth, like the
No,
topographic features.
uneven heating. You're going to find more turbulence over, well, I'm talking about lower altitudes now, but, you got green grass and you've got parking lots that are, blacktop. So you're going to
Winds
have
get hotter.
uneven heating, and so you've got rising currents and descending currents, and
Okay.
all that is creating turbulence. And then of course you've got wind, and we used to have a situation up at Person County Airport where I used to instruct, where the wind would come right down the runway and it would kind of go downhill and it would hit some trees and come up, and we called it the swamp monster. And you're on short final to land and it would just rock your wings, and it made some people nervous, but once you got used to it, it was all right.
I don't want to be used to it.
But turbulence also is at higher altitudes, mostly the jet stream.
Okay.
That boundary. You think of a jet stream like a tube of air, and once you try to cross that boundary up into the tube so you can get a good tailwind or whatever, there's a lot of turbulence in that area. So, but all that is again dependent on the sun. The sun affects everything we do on the earth.
Well, thank you for explaining that, because I had no clue.
I just know I don't like the feeling.
It's just when you're driving down an old dirt road and you hit a pothole, does it make you lose control?
No.
How fast?
Well, that's all turbulence is. It's just a pothole in the sky. That's all it is. It's not going to make you lose control.
Well, somebody better fix the damn roads.
You need to sit back, relax, and go to the lavatory and relieve yourself.
I'm going to tell you, I fly in the front of the plane now, Bo. When I go that international flight, I'm on a lay-down seat, and I usually pop a Valium because I don't want to remember it. I don't do well with that.
First time I flew, I was drinking double shots of Jack about 7:15 in the morning.
Yeah,
because the bar opened at 7.
It's just I don't know. It's not that I have a fear of flying. It's that sudden stop at the end that worries me.
I'm scared.
Well, that can happen. Falling off the edge of a building. So
that's true. That's true. That's true.
It has nothing to do with but still, people are intimidated by airplanes, and they really shouldn't be.
That's a fair point. Intimidation.
I can't stand on the edge of a building and look over because I have a fear of heights. But when I'm in an airplane, I got wings. I don't have wings if I'm standing on the edge of a building looking over the edge. So once I got my wings, I'm okay. I'm comfortable. No problem.
Okay. You we're getting off topic, but is it true that when you fly east and west, you fly at a certain altitude, and when you fly north and south, you're at a certain altitude?
Not really north and south, but east and west, yeah.
Okay. So, like, if you're going, like, 30,000 feet and then they're at 37 or something, is it, like, offset like that?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know if that was, like, the truth. Somebody had said that, and I said, I don't know if that's true. But I said, I'm going to find out.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, east and west, you fly even and odd altitudes.
I didn't know that. Now I know. I'm telling you what, we're learning some stuff.
I'll tell you.
We're learning some stuff. I can just imagine the messages we'll get about this, because it's, we're a fireman podcast and we've brought people on, but I think it's cool to memorialize people that have done different things in life. So you solo, you obviously land safely. It wasn't an option.
They were able to use the airplane again.
What was that, like a Cessna?
No, it was a Beechcraft Skipper. They're not really that common.
I got to GTS that now.
Yeah, it's actually a neat little airplane. Looks like a Tomahawk, Piper Tomahawk, but it is slightly different. It's more stable than a Tomahawk. So,
what do you mean when you say stable? What does that mean?
It's not as prone to diverge from its flight path.
Okay.
Like a fighter jet is unstable. It's inherently unstable. That's what makes it so maneuverable. But you have to stay on it all the time, constantly.
You're constantly flying it. You're not along for the ride.
Yeah, Beechcraft builds a stable airplane. Bonanzas, Barons, and I've flown them all.
Okay.
Beechcraft builds a very good airplane. And
okay.
I'm not trying to
Well, nobody's paying you to say that.
advertise or anything.
No, I mean, it's
But
your
it's
experience.
just a fact. Yeah, beach builds stable platform.
All right, so they're still Beechcraft is still in business. Is that the
I guess they are. I don't know. I mean, there's been so many corporate buyouts here and there. I don't keep up with it.
yeah? Well, I wouldn't either if I was retired. Wouldn't have nothing to do with it.
The only thing I worry about is getting my grass mowed before it rains.
Is there enough gas in the hot rod?
Yeah, yeah.
So, how did you make the jump from being a private pilot, in a Beechcraft, to being a flight instructor, and then take me through that process?
Well, everyone pretty much has the same process.
Okay.
From private pilot, then you get your instrument rating, and
That's all the stuff in front of you.
right, flying wing instruments. Yeah, and then you get your commercial, and once you get your commercial certificate, you're able then to fly for hire, and some people actually never get their flight instructor certificate. They just take their commercial and they fly power line patrol or pipeline patrol, or take skydivers up so that they can jump out of an airplane.
God bless them.
Nope.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying though that the commercial certificate allows you to fly for hire,
Okay.
and but I didn't do that. I went on and got my flight instructor certificate, and then I was able to teach people to fly and get paid for it and build my hours towards going on further.
So when you talk about building hours, you have to have a set amount of hours before you can go to another level. Is that how that works?
Right. You need 1,500 hours in order to get your ATP, Airline Transport Pilot certificate. And again, it's another check ride. And so I got my ATP, and then flew charter, corporate, and then finally got on my first airline.
Well, what airline was that?
CC Air out of Charlotte. We're a U.S. Airways commuter,
Okay.
flying a Jetstream 32, and then eventually a Dash 8, which I was flying on 9/11.
Those things are loud.
Yeah, big old turboprops.
Yeah, they're loud. We got familiar with those in Alaska. De Havilland Dash 8. They're
Well, the Jetstream's even louder.
What makes it louder?
It's a geared engine.
Okay.
It's not a slip clutch.
Okay.
I mean,
It's Greek to me, but I'm listening.
well, in the Dash 8, you can go out and turn the props, right?
Okay.
And they're just freewheeling. They're all driven by, they're not connected to the engine per
Okay.
se. They're driven by, I don't know, gear or what, just like a King Air.
Okay.
Okay. But in the Garrett engines on a Jetstream 32, those are direct geared engines to the engine, direct props to the engine, and they whine. They are loud. I mean, the difference is if you ever see or hear them start up, sometimes I call it a slip clutch. You'll hear the engine start to spool up and you'll see the prop start to go slow until it finally starts to catch up.
Is that like a helicopter? Same theory?
I guess. No, I don't think a helicopter has a slip clutch. It has that Jesus nut, which that scares me. But on a Garrett engine on the Jetstream, I mean, once you start it, I mean, it starts spinning immediately. There's no hesitation at
It's
all.
right now.
Yeah, it's a geared engine, yeah.
Okay. And you said that. How long were you on those for?
About a year.
Okay.
About a year. I was on the Dash 8 about 6 months before 9/11.
Now that's flying out of Charlotte?
Yeah, well, the company's based in Charlotte. I was based out of RDU at first, and then I was based out of Pitt, Greenville, North Carolina.
Okay.
I was on the Jetstream out of Raleigh, and then I was on the Dash 8 when I was based in Pitt, Greenville.
Okay. So maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but you hold a couple records, speed records, don't you?
National and a world speed record, yeah.
In an airplane?
Hmm.
Let's talk about it.
Well, I mean, it was this.
Now we're intrigued. So
I don't have all the facts in front of me.
That's okay.
But it was
Nobody's going to hold you to it.
yeah.
It's really cool, man.
Well, it was one flight, but it was certified as a national and a world speed record, and it was point to point from Winston-Salem to Kitty Hawk in a Beechcraft Bonanza, and I had my dad with me, and it was kind of a birthday present to him. I flew from Person County Airport to Smith Reynolds Airport, where I picked up my dad, and we took off, got in the air, and I said, "By the way, Dad, I'm going to set a world speed record today." And he wasn't prepared for that. He didn't know what I was going to do because yeah, I have a reputation. And
let's talk about it.
so anyway, I had a good tailwind that day. It was a beautiful day, and went up just west of Winston and called ATC because they're the ones that had to certify you over a certain point, right, and send in the paperwork to the NAA, National Aeronautic Association, for the certification. And said, "Okay, here I come." And they said, "Okay, we're ready." And so they marked me over top of Smith Reynolds Airport, and I'd already put it into the navigation of the airplane to go straight from Smith Reynolds Airport, Winston-Salem, directly to the Kitty Hawk, Wright Brothers VOR. And Greensboro handed me off, I guess, to Washington Center. And Washington Center were the ones that were supposed to mark me over, the final point. And so they said they got it. And so my dad and I, we landed at First Flight Airport, got out, and went to the Wright Brothers Memorial. And then we left there and flew down the coast and went down to, landed at Beaufort, North Carolina, and got a car and went over and ate seafood at Sanitary Restaurant where we used to eat we used to get down there and eat, as a family. When I was a kid, Dad would always take us to Sanitary. So it was,
Great food.
Full circle.
yeah, it was full circle. Yeah. And so we left Beaufort at the end of the day, and I flew him back to Smith Reynolds. But the rest of the story is
Paul Harvey.
when I got in touch with the person at Washington Center, he said, "We can't find your paperwork." And I went, "What?" And so anyway, eventually they found it, and it was certified. And as far as I know, I still hold. I didn't break a record, but I set one point to point, Winston-Salem to Kitty Hawk. But again, another part of the rest of the story is when I was given my award, it was at the Smithsonian after hours. After the museum had closed at the Air and Space Museum, and I'd taken my dad with me up there. I got a hotel room for each of us, and we drove up, and it was at the award ceremony, and it was Scott Crossfield, the famous X-15 pilot, there at the upper level, and he's addressing the crowd, and or all of the attendees. Most of us were receiving an award, but it was just kind of neat because he was standing there, and the X-15 was behind him. The
Right.
the rocket ship that he flew. But my dad, it was really neat because he got to meet Hoot Gibson, one of the famous shuttle astronauts. And And my dad was just bouncing around like a teenager, like he was, meeting his childhood hero. I met Hoot Gibson. It was pretty neat. So anyway, it was, again, as you said, full circle.
Yeah.
It was neat to do that with my dad.
You've owned some pretty cool planes throughout your life.
Just two.
What's the one that it looks like a teardrop to me is how I would describe it. Wasn't it like a
Just I've owned two airplanes, and they're Pitts Specials.
what does that mean?
That's a small single seat biplane, fully aerobatic.
Yeah, that's what it looks like a teardrop to me
I
for some
guess.
reason.
Yeah.
All right. So aerobatic.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to go and wring it out, just to.
You're fucking crazy. You know what aerobatic means, Big John, don't you?
I'm thinking about biscuits and gravy. What does that mean?
Doing circles and loop-de-loops.
Oh, loopy-loops? No, sir. No, sir. Oh, my Lord. Bless you.
No, sir.
Skyground.
No, sir.
Jesus.
Absolutely not.
Oh.
What does that feel like?
A rush.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you're in the air, it's a 3D environment. So, you up, down, forward, backwards, sideways. I mean, you just go up and have fun, I mean, I'd sometimes come back and I'd have bruises
From the straps?
From the straps. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Just from wringing it out, having fun.
Is there like rules against that? It's not like motocross, like where you can just go jumping.
Yeah, there are rules. I mean, you can't do it over, assembly of people or anything like that unless you're, authorized to do that by the FAA. So you'd have to find a remote area to do that.
Plenty of those in North Carolina.
Here's a few.
Hey, look, an empty field. Let's go upside down. No, thank you. No, thank you. And then you wonder why people don't want to fly with people. So you're flying. You set a record. You've done some cool shit, and then you go from de Havilland. What is it? The Dash 8?
Dash 8.
Okay, so you go from that to what?
The CRJ, the Canadair Regional Jet. The company that I work for, CC Air, they were bought by Mesa Airlines, which was out of Phoenix. And once they shut down CC Air, we got assimilated into the Mesa pilot group. Kind of like resistance was futile.
Hostile takeover.
So, yeah, I had an abused childhood. So I started flying the CRJ, which was my first experience of flying a jet. And fun airplane. Very, very fun airplane to fly. Worked my way up to captain, and then, eventually got the opportunity to apply for position as a pilot on the 747, and I applied to a number of different airlines, and finally somebody brave enough to hire me.
Brave enough to hire you. So you worked for Coletta.
I did.
And did you ever get to meet the Coletta family?
Yeah, well, Connie really doesn't have a lot of family,
Okay.
But I've met Connie a few times. He's always been very nice to me, but I've also seen him be not so nice to other people.
Right.
When I was down at the race shop one day when I was up there for training in Ypsilanti, and they had lost the race that weekend, and he came in, and boy, he just wore some people out. And they stood there and they kept their mouth shut, and Connie got in his car and left, and they just kind of turned to me and said, we're used to it. They just let him vent, and then it's done. It's over.
Right.
But Connie's a character.
How many airplanes do they have?
He's a good guy. I'm grateful that he built that company because I had that opportunity.
Well, that's a big airline. I mean,
Well, it's one of the largest privately owned airlines in the world. I mean, it's not a public airline, you can't buy
Can't buy a
stock.
ticket.
No, or well, not a ticket, but you can't buy stock. I mean, it's literally owned by one man.
Wow.
The
Judge,
only
jury, and executioner.
yeah, yeah. I think they still have 24 747s, 34, 24. I can't remember.
That's
You
crazy.
can look it up. And they've got 3 or 4 777s now. I never wanted to go to the 777. I just wanted to stay on my Queen of the Sky.
That 777's big, Bo.
Yeah, not as big as a 74, but and doesn't carry as much weight. Almost as much, but not quite as much. But it is more fuel efficient, and that's the way of the future.
Right.
But still, the 747. I mean, it's an iconic airplane.
Yeah.
It's one of the
You know it when you see it.
one of the most recognizable airframes in the world.
Yeah.
When you see a 74, you know it's a 74.
So the first time you're a first officer, is that what that's called when you're hired? You're in the right seat?
Correct.
Okay. So the first time you're in that, you go through all your training. You have to. I'm assuming you have to go through a bunch of training.
A bunch.
Okay. So you get there. Where was your first flight in a 747 at?
Oh Lord, I don't even remember. I have to go back and look at my logbooks. But
You still have them.
oh, absolutely.
That's cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's cool.
That's like a diary of your life. But I'm gonna guess that my first flight was out of Newark, because we did a lot of flights out of Newark at the time, and we'd go across the Atlantic to Liège, Belgium,
Okay.
and that's where we would get off. Another crew would get on, and then take the airplane on down to Bahrain. And
Wow.
but that was on the 747 Classic. Okay, and that was the early versions of the 74-200, and had the Pratt and Whitney engines on it. But then eventually, when I got on the transition to the 74-400, which is a great airplane, we flew out of Newark, and for the first time, we could go directly from Newark to Bahrain, and it was nonstop, so we didn't have to go through Liège anymore. But the Classic was limited.
So in those, obviously most of us have probably never set foot on a cargo plane. How does that work? So is there a team together? Like how does that? Is there obviously there's a captain, first officer. Is that it? Everybody else, just you two, or is there a team on the plane?
Yeah, on the Classic, you had a flight engineer. On the 400, the flight engineer was designed out of the airplane. But you have a load master. Of course, we had ride-on mechanics that just rode on the airplane around the world with the crew in case something happened. You had a mechanic right there all the time.
Oh wow!
And he carried spare parts, certain spare parts or whatever. But you had load masters, and they were responsible for loading the airplane and getting the weight and balance correct. And then they'd hand the paperwork to the captain.
Wow.
Of course, the first officer would have to go down there and inspect and make sure everything was, it looked right. I mean, ultimately the load master was responsible, but, the first officer double checked things and then said, "Yep, Captain, it looks good." And Captain would sign the paperwork and we'd be on our way.
So when you're in those planes, those cargo planes, right? There's no seats, there's no walls, there's no nothing, right? It's just cargo.
Right, there are tracks on the floor of the plane, and we call them cookie sheets, big aluminum sheets that the cargo is built upon, and then you've got netting over the top of that.
Wow.
And then they take it into the cargo door, and it makes a turn, and it goes up. And you had to put certain things in certain positions, like the heavy stuff had to be over the wing spar or whatever.
Okay. So was there like a kitchen for y'all to cook, or?
Upstairs, yeah. There's, of course, in the 7-4, there's the main cargo deck, and then there's the upper deck where we work and live up at the top. So, that's where we sleep and eat and everything on long flights.
You had a bed.
Yeah, there's a bit.
Wow.
Yeah, we get to take a break once in a while.
That's crazy.
No.
You said up there. How high or up are we talking?
I would sit about 34 feet above the ground in my seat there in the pointy end of the airplane.
34 feet.
34 feet in the air.
3.5 swimming pools above the
I
ground.
guess. I don't know. I haven't measured a swimming pool, but
10 foot.
we had I don't know, these retractable handles that if we had to egress out of the airplane, we go over out of the upper hatch and we grab one of these handles and it would, tension up as you got closer to the ground and it would slow your fall, but you had to hold on.
Yeah, that's an important piece, it sounds like.
Yeah. Gravity always wins.
She's untested.
Yeah, yep. There's more airplanes in the ocean than there are submarines in the sky. Gravity always wins.
John's doing the math right now, looking at that, going, "I don't understand."
The math ain't it ain't mathing. That's wow. That's a good way to put it.
Well, what was your? I mean, for a kid from Winston Salem, to you, literally.
We didn't grow up with any money or anything. I was, again, the kid that wasn't supposed to succeed. In fact, a lot of people never thought I'd live to see 30 years old, and I just turned 70. So
Why did they feel that?
I was kind of a wild child. My sister was killed when I was 15, and she was my best friend. And then my mom died when I was 17 in my senior year of high school. So, without that female supervision, how guys just kind of go crazy.
So you were, you were feral.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. For a while, yeah, I was a wild child.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, though. I mean, you turned out no worse for the wear. I mean, you've got a good story.
I was lucky enough to survive.
Yeah.
I've been blessed. I have been blessed. I'm very lucky.
Where did your love for music come from?
Well, again, in the neighborhood where I grew up, there were guys that, again, the early 60s, wanted to form what we called back then combos. They weren't called bands. They were combos.
I was thinking those
delectable
little snacks.
Yeah. And, but, eventually some of the guys did form a band, and it toured all around the Southeast with the same agency as Molly Hatchet. And they almost made it. But anyway, it was something from childhood. I've just always loved music and been around music and musicians, and it's just, again, part of the DNA, I guess, with the ocean and the sky.
Yeah. I mean, you've drugged me to some places for some music, and I will tell people that you do one of the best covers I've ever seen of karaoke of AC/DC. I mean,
only Bon Scott. I can't sing Brian Johnson. He's just in another level altogether. But Bon Scott, I can sing. Yeah, and it's fun to sing Bon because he was kind of like me, kind of a wild child and untamed, and he was just all about having fun. Yeah, it's fun to sing Bon Scott.
I think one of the things that I've always admired about you is that you don't just look at the surface of things. You are you like to look at the intricacies of what actually makes something work. And you and I were talking a few days ago on the phone, and we were talking about going across the pond, and you and I are going to be in Scotland a few days apart. And we started talking about hotels at airports and where we should stay, but you're going over for Bonfest.
Yeah.
So,
I've always wanted to go. This is the 20th anniversary coming up this year of Bonfest, and every year it's grown. I just turned 70, So I said, you know what, this might be my last hurrah. So I'm going to go for it, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, you're going to see some concerts. Going to do some.
Yeah, I mean, there's an outdoor stage area
Okay.
where people tent and camp, and and but they have bands all day long, coming and going. And then there's also where it started in the town of Kirramure, Scotland, the town hall. And so there's bands that rotate on and off stage, at the town hall. So you can't really be everywhere at once and see everything. I mean, Bonfest has gotten very large, and this year it's almost all sold out already.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy, but it's gotten that big. And this year they're going to have one of the drummers for AC/DC. They're performing, Chris Slade.
Mm-hmm.
He played on the Razor's Edge album. He's famous for Thunderstruck, and his band's going to be there for I think the first time. But there's some AC/DC cover bands, and a lot of those bands are really good. I mean, I got to tell you, they are very good. But there's other bands as well. I mean, there's only so many times you can hear, Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap or Highway to Hell. You want to hear other stuff as well.
Right.
But
right.
it's a good mix of AC/DC and some other things.
What's your favorite AC/DC song?
In general, or to sing?
If you had one that you were going to listen to on the way home.
Thunderstruck.
All right, John.
I mean, that's just a song that's a song that gets your blood pumping.
Right. Mine's Gone Shooting.
If I was going to be in a race car going around Daytona at 200 miles an hour, that's the song I would want playing in my ears. Something that just gets the adrenaline flowing and the blood pumping, and just let her all hang out. Let's have some fun.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes total sense. And music does that. I mean, music has a way to get inside of your soul. It speaks to you.
Oh, rock and roll. I mean, it's supposed to get the blood pumping.
Right. You've also got you love classic cars.
I've been a car guy my whole life.
Yeah. What do you got right now?
I've got a 65 Mustang, which is a custom car from one end to the other. It's got influences from the Shelby designs as well as the California Special, but it's not a clone of either one. I've got a 66 Marlin, AMC Marlin, which is, again, a custom car from one end to the other, built like I wanted it. And I've got a 68 Mustang SS 396 and a 69 AMX, which is one of the few American-made two-seat sports cars, along with the early Thunderbird and the Corvette and Shelby Cobra, if you want to include that. But and they're all 4-speeds. I've been a 4-speed guy my whole life. Ronnie Sox was my hero growing up, so he just. And their shop was down in Burlington, which is not far from Winston. So, Ronnie Sox was my 4-speed hero.
You like things that go fast.
Well, I like shifting gears and controlling machines, I guess. So
now you took you won a pretty big car show down at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Am I not mistaken?
Yeah, I did. It was with the restored AMC Marlin. I actually sold that car last fall, but the guy that got it, he'll take care of it. I'm not worried about it. But it was actually chosen by Mike Joy, to be the best of show, and it was quite an honor. It was a moment of validation, I guess. I mean, everybody was shaking their heads, because there were some beautiful cars down there. There's no question. As a matter of fact, the guy that was the runner-up, his name was Earnhardt, and he was from Kannapolis. And he had a beautiful 66 Nova. I mean, if I was going to choose best of show, it probably would have been his car. But he was he was chosen as runner-up, and they chose my Marlin basically because of the. I mean, you can go out and find parts for Chevys and Fords and all that, but when you try to restore something as obscure as an AMC car, and especially low production numbers like a Marlin, it's difficult. And in fact, Mike Joy asked me, he said, "Where do you find parts for this?" And I said, "Anywhere you can." And so he said, the fit and finish and the paint job and everything. He said it was one of the nicest restorations he'd ever seen.
That means a lot.
Again, basically, given the degree of difficulty.
Well, Mike Joy knows cars.
And he's a very nice man.
Yeah.
I've met him a couple of times since then, and he's always been very nice.
That's awesome. Because I remember you've got a photo, I think, on your social media of that, don't you?
Oh, the yellow car?
Yeah, you two together at Charlotte.
No, I don't think we ever took a photo together, or somebody might have.
I thought there
don't know.
was. Excuse me. Well, you mentioned 9/11, so let's talk about that for a minute. So, you're flying for, I can't remember, CC Air.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're flying for them, September the 11th, Tuesday morning. Take us there.
Well, again, I was based in Pitt Greenville, North Carolina, and first flight of the day, coming out of Pitt Greenville, we flew to Charlotte, normal flight, no problem, and then unloaded people, loaded back up, and then we left the gate in Charlotte. Turns out it was about the same time as those other airplanes were leaving the gate in Boston and Newark, and I think Dulles. And so we were going to Jacksonville, North Carolina, and half the plane was Marines going down to Camp Lejeune.
Testosterone.
Yeah. And we were probably about over Fayetteville, North Carolina, when all this started to unfold. And got on the ground in Jacksonville, unloaded the airplane, and station manager came out and said, "You guys need to come in and see this." And so we went into her office, and a little black and white TV is all she had in her office. And both towers had been hit. And so we looked at it and we said, well, that's pretty bad, but hey, we got a schedule to keep. Let's load everybody up and get out of here and get back to Charlotte. And it was, again, a beautiful blue sky day.
Yeah.
And so we loaded everybody up and went out to the end of the runway and called Wilmington Approach to get our clearance to go back to Charlotte, and they said, unable, suggest you call your company. Myself and the captain kind of looked at each other, and so we called the station manager on the radio, and the station manager called the company. Basically, they said, taxi back in, unload everybody, lock the airplane. So that's what we did. And went back in the station manager's office and looked at the little black and white TV. And the first tower had already fallen by that point. And the only thing I saw live on TV was the second tower falling. And the company had called a taxi for us to drive us back to Pitt Greenville, from Jacksonville up to Pitt Greenville, so we could, get our stuff and get our cars and go home, because at that point everything was grounded. And it was in the taxi that we learned about the Pennsylvania field and the Pentagon. It was during that taxi ride. Pretty interesting.
How does one lock an airplane?
With a key.
Oh, there are actual keys to an airplane?
There's a lock. The captain had the key.
Okay.
And there's a lock. Well, at least there was on the Dash 8. You just reach up and turn the lock, close the door, and put the key in, turn the lock, and that was it.
It's not like a bleep bleep.
No, no.
Wow. So, how did that? Yeah. How does that work with air travel after that? How did things? What was the posture after that? How long did it take for us to reach normal?
Oh gosh, it took a while to reach normal, but I can't remember exactly how long we were grounded, but it was at least a week.
Holy cow!
That there were, maybe 10 days until I got back in the air.
And then, how long before after that did you switch over to cargo? Was there?
Well, that was all people.
Yeah, that's
and
what I
then
mean.
CC Air was all people, and then when I got assimilated into the Mesa system, that was all people as well.
Okay.
It was only when I went to flying the 747 that it was strictly cargo.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But not to jump ahead too much, but interestingly enough, at the end of my career, I actually flew people again.
Really?
Yeah. That's another story.
Oh, we're gonna get there. That's crazy. To be grounded for 10 days and not being able to go to work is, I can't imagine. Like that's some real stuff. And, we didn't really know what was going on, right?
No, nobody knew what was going on. Yeah, it was. Yeah, in fact, I went home and loaded all my guns because I thought, everybody thought the Russians or somebody was attacking.
Yeah, we thought we were going to war.
Yeah, so us good old boys out here in the country, that's the one that our enemies fear the most.
Is us.
Yeah.
We are that demographic.
Yes, we are.
Realtree makes great camouflage.
So, what did you get the bug to start writing? I mean, you wrote a couple books.
Oh, that's actually kind of interesting. I had a student at Person County Airport, which is Roxborough, North Carolina, for people that don't know. And I don't remember his last name, but his first name was Craig. Nice guy. And one day he just said to me, Phil, you've got really good ways of explaining things. You should write a book. And I went, nah, come on. And I just kind of blew it off. But then as I had other students and I would try to explain something to them and, they'd look at me like a dog looks at you when he doesn't understand and cocks his head. And I'd have to try and think of a different way to explain the same thing. So you had to have like 4 or 5 different ways of explaining one thing for those people that might not understand it this way, but they might understand it with the different explanation. So it kind of came back and gnawed at me a little bit. So I started writing down these little explanations on different pieces of paper, like a napkin or scrap paper or something. And I threw them all in a shoebox. I had this shoebox. And finally, I guess, a year or so later, I started pulling these pieces of paper out. And I said, well, this would kind of go towards the beginning, and this would kind of be in the middle, and this would kind of be at the end. And before I knew it, I had like 4 or 5 different piles of pieces of scrap paper. And those ended up being, the initial rough chapters of what became a little flight training book that I wrote.
Nice.
So there's no one way to write a book, but that's kind of where mine started. I didn't set out to, change the world or get famous or anything like that. I just wanted to give something back because one of my students said, you should write a book because you've got good ways of explaining things. So I just kind of, you just don't know until you try something.
That's right.
You just don't know until you try.
Yeah. Well, I mean, your book, hang on a second. Your book, Music's Broken Wings.
Yeah, that was the second book that that was published. It's a history book, 50 years of aviation accidents in the music industry. It goes from 1935 through 1985 and covers 34 accidents during that 50-year period.
So you researched every one of those catastrophic events.
I did. I had a friend who was a senior NTSB investigator. His name was Dave Ivey. He actually lived down in Oxford. And he was a dear friend. He's passed away now. But he took me up to Washington, got me full access into the NTSB archives. So I researched everything at the NTSB archives as well as the National Archives, which is where I pulled out some of the information for the Glenn Miller accident. I pulled out stuff that people hadn't seen in, at the time, 60 years. So, just to try and, nobody really knows what happened to Glenn Miller, but, when you start assembling, evidence, reports of, where people were and stuff like that, it starts to paint a picture.
Sure.
And but I have to give credit to Dave Ivey. He was a great guy, and he was kind enough to take me under his wing. He was one of the proofreaders of the book, just to make sure that I wasn't overstepping my
Right.
bounds or anything, to make sure I was staying on the line of being factual.
Right.
I didn't want to sensationalize anything, but neither did I want to suppress information. So I had to walk right across that, that log.
Fine line.
Yeah, that log across the stream. That you're not going to fall off on one side or the other. So, but it's a history book. It's a factual book on what really happened for those people who want to know the truth.
Well, let me ask you, because it's a fascinating read for somebody that's not a pilot, but
And they're both out of print. So, but you can still sometimes find them on eBay. So I'm not trying to plug anybody to go out and buy these books. 'Cause
Yeah.
I don't get anything anymore because again they're all out of print. So, but if anybody is interested out there in radio land or whatever, podcast land,
you can buy it right now on Thrift Books if you want both books.
okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So if you want,
only
I'm
time
sure,
I've ever seen them is on eBay.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's just, I
I've
just
seen
happened to look it up.
I've seen Music's Broken Wings anywhere from $5 up to $200. Believe me, buy the $5 book.
From the guy that wrote it.
No, I don't sell them on eBay.
I know.
anymore.
It's just funny. That's all. Take it from the guy. Buy the $5 one. The $200 one doesn't mean anything.
Yeah,
That's just somebody trying to make money.
yeah, exactly.
That's what you get for a hardcover.
What
No, there are none of them are hardcovers.
what was your and I hate to say this because it's attached to a tragedy. What was your favorite out of all those incidents? What was the favorite one that you researched that just like you really dug your heels into and looked at in depth? I know you
Well-
give them all the same amount of credence, but like,
My favorite ones were the ones where nobody got killed. Like the Doobie Brother accident. That was kind of funny. It happened up at Norfolk, and they flew in and left the airplane to go to the concert in Norfolk. And while they were doing their concert in Norfolk, the airplane caught on fire. And nobody really knows why, but the joke was that, one of them left a doobie burning on one of the seats. And so, yeah, nobody got hurt in that one. So those are the ones that are my favorites. But the one that I guess really affected me more than anything else was the Randy Rhoads accident, the guitar player for Ozzy Osbourne. It was just senseless. It didn't have to happen. It was just a crying shame. The bus driver that drove all night and, he'd been doing cocaine and he stopped at a friend of his that happened to be right there at a private airfield, and he was non-current in his medical and flying experience, and basically some people say he borrowed the airplane, but basically he stole the airplane because he didn't have permission, and he was given joy rides, and got too low and hit the tour bus, and then hit a tree, and then crashed into a house, and him and Rachel Youngblood, the makeup lady for the band, as well as Randy Rhoads, were killed. It just breaks your heart because it's just one of those senseless things that just didn't have to happen.
You confused me for a second when you said the bus driver, because I've heard of people refer to themselves as airline pilots as bus drivers.
Yeah, I mean, I was involved in transportation of aluminum tubing. Call it what you will, but he was actually literally the
actual bus driver.
Oh, yeah,
The Silver
on
Eagle.
the road.
Yeah, a Prevost bus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes I don't like to tell people what I did. I just
Right.
tell them I operated heavy equipment.
That's fair. Yeah.
That's all they need to know.
Yeah, people sometimes they always want to ask. They always ask us the one question. What's the one question that they always want to ask us, John? What's the worst thing you've ever seen? And that's rough, because people aren't prepared for that answer. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's better just not ask.
You talking about it's firefighters, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
people want to ask.
If you ask me, it was a dike in Hong Kong. That's the worst thing I ever seen. Man, that was ugly.
What? In Hong Kong.
And Hong Kong's a fun town now. Believe me, Hong Kong is a fun town, but you don't want to mess with the dikes.
What after all of your travels, right? You've literally been around the globe.
Both directions, many times.
Yeah, northern, southern hemisphere doesn't matter, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you could go to one place today, where would you go?
Hong Kong.
Just not for the dikes.
Hong Kong's a fun town.
Is the food there that good?
Yeah, the food's good. But it's a city that never sleeps, and they call New York the city that never sleeps. But believe me, Hong Kong is a city that never sleeps. You can be active doing something all the time, 24 hours if you want.
Wow.
It's a fun, crazy place. But there's no hesitation. Everybody wants to go to Hong Kong. All the pilots, if you ask them, I mean, they'll say Hong Kong.
The culture there's pretty cool too, right?
Well, it was when I was going there. The culture has changed somewhat now that China has taken over.
Right.
So I don't. A lot of it is still the same, but the feel of it has changed a bit since the mainland Chinese have taken over.
Right. So, your last flight.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not talk about that yet. You said towards the end of your career you're flying people.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about that.
Well, you have to put it in context. January of 2020, when the news hit the airwaves, and normally the only thing I could get on for the news around the world was CNN, which is normally clearly no news. But in this case, I was watching CNN, and they were talking about this COVID-19. And it's named COVID-19 because it was actually discovered
In 19.
in 2019, which is a few months before January of 2020. But I was in Wuxi, China, WXI, Wuxi, China, which is probably 150 miles from Wuhan.
Okay.
And, at that point they were saying that, it's already reached Beijing. Well, I was closer than Beijing. Wuxi is in between Shanghai and Wuhan. And I was kind of thought, I'm in the middle of ground zero. So I was glad to get out of there with my crew, and we flew from Wuxi to Anchorage, Alaska. Got on the ground in Anchorage, went to the hotel, rested, and I got a call from the company that said, we're changing your schedule. Because I was scheduled to fly back to the lower 48. And I said, no problem, because our schedules change, occasionally, actually a lot. But that's the nature of our company, Coletta Air. We're kind of the hired guns. We are flexible to the customer's needs, right? And I said, okay. And they said, well, okay, you're flying back to Incheon, South Korea. I said, okay, no problem. Well, when I got on the airplane, when I got up the steps and looked down the main deck where there's supposed to be cargo, there were seats. And I went, what the hell? Then it kind of dawned on me, because I'd heard stories about, flying U.S. citizens out of Wuhan. And I was kind of putting two and two together. But the backstory of that is the State Department, when they started this, task of evacuating U.S. citizens out of Wuhan, called one of our competitors. And because our competitor was able to fly people, you have to have a separate certificate to fly people, because you have to have a flight attendant program in place, and I mean it's all separate. Anyway, we didn't have that, so they called our competitor and said, can you get an airplane over to Wuhan to evacuate our people? And apparently our competitor said no. We don't have a spare airplane. So the State Department, again, this is the story that I got.
Sure.
Said, thank you very much. Hung up, picked up the phone, and called us, Coletta Air. Said, can you get an airplane over to Wuhan with seats on it? And we said, yeah, but we can't fly people. We don't have the separate certificate to fly people. And
This time we
State
won't watch.
the State Department said, I'll call you back. Hung up, called the president. And the president at that time was Donald Trump. And when the State Department called Coletta Air back, basically said, we waive all legalities. We waive, all certificates. Go get our people. Right. And that came straight from the top. And we said, yes, sir. And Coletta has its own maintenance facility, and we were involved in some of the conversions from passenger airplanes to cargo. And so we had seats and storage up there at our facility. And so it was no problem to put the seats on the airplane and, get it ready. So that spare airplane was flown from our maintenance facility up in Michigan to Anchorage, Alaska. And then that crew got off, and that's where myself and my crew got on. Mm-hmm. And we flew it from Anchorage to Incheon, South Korea. And then that's what I call them, the hero crew. That's where the hero crew got on and flew it from Incheon to Wuhan, picked up U.S. citizens, and flew them to Anchorage, and that's where they got off. And another crew got on and flew that airplane down to California, and that's where you saw it on the news. Now you're seeing the first evacuation of U.S. citizens. But that's kind of the backstory behind it. I didn't fly people on that occasion, but I flew, the airplane that flew the people. I was involved in the first evacuation of U.S. citizens out of Wuhan. But later, I think it was like March, I got a chance to fly U.S. citizens out of Monrovia, Liberia. And I'd been into Liberia before during the Ebola relief. I flew mobile field hospitals and generators in there for the Ebola thing. That was back in like 2013. So I had experience going into Monrovia. And that flight originated out of Dulles. We flew across the Atlantic to Western Africa and picked up U.S. citizens. And mostly it was people from the U.S. consulate there. You know, it was families of people there at the embassy. And flew them back across the pond to Dulles. So I actually flew people on that flight. And so at the end of my career, I flew people once again. What's interesting, though, is because we could not technically fly people, the people were listed as cargo. They were not listed as people. We didn't have a passenger manifest or anything. And the State Department, they provided their own people to do the flight attendant duties. When they loaded porta potties on, and you know, so they had food and everything. The State Department did all that, and we were told as the crew, again because of the COVID-19 scare and all that, we were told as a crew, you know, you stay in the upper deck, you stay up there. If you go downstairs, you're not coming back up. So it was all isolation, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, we were not allowed to go down and mix with the people at all. So we had to stay up there until all the people were offloaded.
Because there's only one way up, one way down, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was interesting. So
Wow.
So I guess you call it bookends of my career. A little over a year after I started flying for an airline was 9/11, and then about a year before I retired, I ended up doing evacuation of U.S. citizens. It was pretty interesting. 9/11 and COVID-19.
Two pretty profound incidents in our lives.
Yeah, well, COVID-19 was interesting, you know, from my perspective, because I watched the whole world shut down. I mean, we stayed in a hotel in Ostend, Belgium, and when we checked out, the hotel locked the doors and closed. We were the last people to check out of the hotel. Everything was shutting down. There were no cars on the streets. There were no restaurants open. I mean, I literally watched the whole world shut down. All around the world. I mean, Europe, Middle East, Asia. It was very interesting.
It was a terrible time. Both incidents you're talking about, terrible times.
Yeah.
But COVID-19 was.
But it didn't. I mean, 9/11 affected me. I mean, I was sitting at home out of work for a week, 10 days, but I never missed a beat during COVID. I continued to fly around the world. I was tested everywhere, but always tested negative.
Yeah.
So
It is what it is, right?
yeah.
So, if you had to, what's the trickiest airport you ever flew into?
Oh Lord. Probably Kabul.
Afghanistan.
Yeah. Yep. They held you up high because, I mean, Kabul and Bagram both sit in a valley, and there's just, I mean, it's almost like a box canyon. There's mountains all around. So they kept you up high, and when they finally cleared you for the approach, you'd better be ready or you're going to not make it into the airport. You'll end up too high. So it was one of those that you had to be on your toes.
When you say they're holding you high, how high are we talking?
Oh, I don't remember the elevation
of
the airport. Yeah. I mean, but it's just that they cleared you for the approach way too late, so you had to, instead of intercepting a glide slope from underneath, right, and then capturing the glide slope and going down to the airport, you were way above it. So when they cleared you, you had to dive down to grab the glide slope. So it was, yeah. In good weather, it wasn't so bad, but in bad weather, you better be ready.
Potholes will get you.
No, it's not. It's not the potholes. It's the granite in the clouds.
Oh yeah, granite. Yeah.
Yeah,
Undefeated.
yeah. If you got granite in the clouds, you better be careful.
Yeah, that mountain flying ain't for everybody.
No, and Afghanistan's a rough country. I mean, President Trump called some countries just shithole countries. Well, that's one of them.
Yeah.
It
Never have any desire to go.
yeah, I don't know why anybody would.
I mean, I went to a third world country once. That was enough. Nicaragua was Nicaragua was rough, but getting shook down by the police to go down the highway, you give them $20 American, they let you go on your way. They don't harass you.
Yeah.
You give them any lip, next thing you know, you're in trouble. So
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
it's all about opium over there, though, where you're talking. Opium and oil. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure I've flown over some poppy fields here or there, but
Yeah.
yeah, flew into 5 different bases in Afghanistan. I flew into Kabul, Bagram, Kandahar, Camp Bastion, which is a British base, and Mazar-e-Sharif, which is again a British base up in the north.
Wow.
Taking stuff to the troops. Sometimes it was mail, sometimes it was food or sports drinks, and sometimes it was things that make noise.
Yeah. Go bang. I love it.
And then, sometimes when we flew out, it was, just flying out empty and going on to Hong Kong or going on to Europe or whatever. But sometimes it was flying HR out of there also. Just always a very solemn flight.
Right. Right. And for those that don't know what that is, that's human remains. So.
Yeah, giving a hero their final trip home.
Yeah.
It was quite an honor. I always gave them the best flight and the smoothest landing I possibly could. And I told my crew, I said, you better be very respectful, because I wasn't going to tolerate any disrespect with HR on board.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are heroes.
Yeah. That's heavy shit. That's heavy shit. Well, when we talk about your retirement flight, take us through your last day, because the FAA says you got to do what at 65. You're timed out, right?
Happy birthday, you just lost your job.
Damn.
He's not joking.
Wow.
It was January 12th, 2021, and it was just another flight. I didn't even know it was going to be my last flight. I'd gone around the world the opposite way, and ended up in JFK, and it was going to be a flight from JFK up to Anchorage, Alaska, and just a short flight by 747 standards, 6 hours maybe. And I thought, that crew scheduling would find another flight for me, from Anchorage down to the lower 48. So I just wasn't even thinking about it. And it was a nice day, smooth. Anchorage was clear. Came in and made a landing and taxied in, and I saw 2 fire trucks on either side of the taxiway, and I went, what the hell? And they had their lights going, and sirens or whatever. They couldn't shoot water because it's January in Alaska. So, it wouldn't have been good. And that's when I realized it, that was my final flight.
And they just say, so what happens? You get off the plane and then
I get off the plane and go to the hotel and
deadhead home?
Yeah, I ended up deadheading the next day with, interestingly enough, it was a guy that was the captain that used to be my first officer. So he had made captain, a really good guy. And
bookends. Seeing a pattern here.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of fitting, actually. And so I was a passenger in the back, flew down to Cincinnati, and then basically got home on my birthday, late in the day on my birthday. And that was it. It was the end of a career.
You haven't flown since?
Have not flown since. Well, actually, no, that's not true. My wife had to go to New York to renew her passport at the Indonesian embassy in New York. So we took a quick flight up to New York. But I haven't flown an airplane.
Yeah, that's you've got a you've got a little boy who keeps you well, not much hair left, but
Yeah, well, yeah,
he keeps you busy.
yeah, he he's a trip. There, he's 6 years old now, and
6 going on 16.
yeah, he'll be 7 next month. But there are still days when I fully understand why some species eat their young. Hey, God, that boy is into everything all the time. He's just, he, yeah, he definitely takes after his mom.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Weren't we just calling you feral?
Oh,
No,
I'm
that-
sure my mom and dad are up there laughing their asses off because this is, they're saying,
Yeah.
this is, karma coming back to you.
He's fun though.
He is fun. He's a good kid. He's very loving, but you just don't leave him alone. Like
No,
I say, I'm scared to go to the bathroom for 2 minutes because the things he can do in 2 minutes is frightening.
Yeah. He's fun to hang around though. He's fun to hang around. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Wait, what do you got going on in the spring? What do you got going on? Anything on the books for you other than Bondfest? That's it?
No, that's going to be my last hurrah again. I turned 70 this year,
Right.
and I'll be 70 with a 7-year-old. Go figure.
Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah. So, no, I don't have any plans. No, I'd like to do some more fishing if I could.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's, again, getting the grass cut before it rains.
Yeah.
Simple life.
It's not all bad. It's not all bad. You've
Putting some high test in the hot rod and going for, go get a milkshake or ice cream cone or something.
just not in the car. Or you eat ice cream in the car.
Oh, hell no. You better not even fart in my car. Much less try to eat ice cream. In fact, there's on the dash of the Mustang. I got it in Hong Kong. There's a little refrigerator magnet and says "No fart in car."
No fart in car.
Do not fart in my car.
Did you ever get close to North Korea?
Yes, within a mile. Taking off out of Incheon, the 38th parallel is just a few miles north of Incheon, and if you take off to the north, you have to make a turn, either right or left, and you better not miss that turn, because you're literally within a mile of North Korean airspace, and you can see exactly what sometimes people post on social media about. You can see the difference between democracy and communism, and they show North Korea where the southern part of Korea is all lit up, and then the northern part of Korea is just dark. I've seen that.
That's crazy.
And it's like a line, and it is light and dark.
Did you ever get into Egypt?
Flew over Egypt a number of times. Saw the Luxor, the Valley of the Kings, and the pyramids, but never landed in Egypt.
Man, what a life.
Flew over it a few times. I've flown over a lot of things, but
That's awesome.
only landed in a few.
Yeah.
Always tried to find a karaoke bar.
Oh, you probably had that shit planned out before you even.
Yeah, I had regular places that I went. And,
Yeah.
Sometimes it was with a live band if I, knew there was a band playing.
They say that overseas, like over. The karaoke scene is outrageous.
Well, there's different kinds of karaoke. There in the Japanese style is where you go in this room and you're isolated and whatever. I never really took to that very much. I like the open bar, with a crowd of people and nobody knows you. And
You're just having fun.
it's all about having fun, and that's the thing about karaoke. It's not about singing. it's about having fun. I was with this is years back again, but it was still on the 747. I was with a captain, and I was a FO at the time, and he was notorious for, let's just say, drinking a little too much.
Sure.
You know, and but he was a good guy, a lot of fun. And we were in Anchorage, and right across the street from the hotel was a karaoke bar. At the time, it's not there anymore. And we went over there, and we were having fun. And I got up and did my AC/DC, and people were just, mildly clapping, not even moderate. She's like me. And he got up there, and he was already 3 sheets to the wind. I mean, he was feeling no pain. And he did Willie Nelson, To All the Girls I've Loved Before. And
That seems like a real party star.
oh my God. It started out and ended kind of like this. Not one word could you understand. But he got through the whole song wavering back and forth and front to back, and everybody was on the edge of their seats waiting for the train wreck. And when he finally got through the end of that song, the whole place just erupted in applause and hooting and hollering, and it was great. But it was just a perfect example that, he got up there and he was having fun. And if you're having fun, the crowd's with you. And so karaoke is not about singing. It's about having fun.
Yeah. You like to have fun.
Yeah. I carried him back to the hotel that night and poured him into bed. Good guy. I always took care of my captains. When I was a first officer, I took care of my captains.
You're a team, right? Tandem.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I flew with a lot of good guys.
Yeah.
I've never heard the Helen Keller version.
The Helen Keller.
Boy, that was one night to remember. I'll never forget it. I mean, the whole place just erupted in applause and hooting and hollering.
That's awesome.
That he got through the whole damn thing without falling. It was great.
People can't appreciate how busy that airspace is, too, in Alaska, in Anchorage.
Yeah, everything from Asia goes through Anchorage because it's what they call a tech stop. You stop and get fueled and change crews. So, yeah, all the cargo basically goes through
There's a ton of airplanes that go
Anchorage.
through there.
Yeah.
Ton.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, it's a very busy airport.
Yeah. And then you got all the little people at the other airport at Merrill Field on the little planes that you got to contend with downtown. That
Oh, I don't care about that.
Yeah, I know you don't, but there's a lot of planes in that airspace. If you look at it like on Flight Tracker, it's crazy.
Yeah, well, ATC is responsible for keeping us separated. We're on an instrument flight plan, so
Yeah.
we're under positive control the whole time. Keep everybody else out of our way.
Fair point. Well, Phil, we're about an hour and a half into this. We normally end with some words of wisdom or something that stuck with you through your career. So
Oh Lord,
I'll give you a minute to think here on it. Big
me
John's gonna start this off. What do you got, Big John?
Oh hell, man! I'm gonna go out on a limb here and just tell everybody to be a good human. Everybody's going through something, whether you can see it or not. Just be a good human and do what's right by them for what you would want done for you. And that's my words of wisdom.
Fair point, Phil.
Oh, that's a hard act to follow right there.
Be a better human.
Yeah.
Mo better.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I like to say, and I've never heard anybody else say it before, is every sunrise is a victory. And you got to go out and celebrate that victory every day.
Fair point.
Just deep.
I'll say that in the end, we only regret the chances that we never took. We thank you for tuning in to the Halligans and Half Wheels podcast brought to you by Box 1971. Remember to train hard. We are all that they have.